Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, UFC 292 is in the books, wrapped up last night. We are going to recap it. I can't wait to get to the main event and all that good stuff, but we are going to start with the first fight of the night. As usual, I will rip through these earlier fights because I want to talk about the shit that we're all here to talk about, alright? So, before we get into it, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's get right to it, okay? Karine Silva versus Marina Moroz. Good fight, Karine Silva. Brilliant performance. I thought she would get a TKO because last time out she was submitted by Marina Moroz about 9 years back. And while she has the skills on the ground, I thought that she had the absolute clear advantage on the feet. It did seem that way early on. She decided to go for a takedown and engage in the grappling, eventually locking up a guillotine. Very good submission. She didn't have it at first, and then Marina Moroz seemingly was about to get good top position, but she ended up lacing that arm through, got the choke, and Marina Moroz tapped with a single second left in that goddamn round, which is insane, dude. You don't really see that in men's MMA. You were 1 second away from getting a minute break, being able to catch all your breath and go back out there for a second round and potentially not get finished, you know what I mean? But she tapped, so it is what it is. There's no way she would have went out in that second. You gotta hear the clappers, man. Your corner's got to be screaming at you, but it was an incredible performance by Karine Silva. The ladies got all finishes, which is amazing to see in the women's divisions. It's not typical, and goddamn, great performance by Karine Silva. Moving up the card to Andrea Lee versus Natalia Silva, okay? Natalia Silva, great performance, right? She outstruck Andrea Lee basically the entire fight. There are some problems that I see with her game, though, now that she's actually facing better competition. Andrea Lee's not the cream of the crop, but she is certainly a adept striker. She just doesn't have enough pop on her shots, which is what I said in the preview video. When Natalia Silva enters, she leaves her chin wide open. Her head is almost straight up, like as if she's looking to the goddamn sky. And there will be a lady, you know, somewhere along the line who is willing to sit down in the pocket and throw a huge counter and potentially crack her. It seems like if she's fighting a girl who actually has some capabilities on the feet, those crazy finishes like we saw the last time out are not going to come that easy. Her head kicks, she doesn't set up all that well. She'll throw a couple punches before it, but it's very, very repetitive, and like you can get the timing pretty easily after a couple of them. You realize, you know, like Robert Whitaker has the 1-2 head kick that he throws. He has a lot of different combinations that he sets up off of that 1-2. So when he does throw the head kick, you know what I mean? You are kind of thinking like, okay, is he going to go with a knee? Is he going to, you know what I mean? He's got a bunch of other variations of that combination, whereas she only seems to really have one. And she keeps her head straight up in the air, chin stuck out right for the taking. So, you know, eventually I do think that she will get caught by somebody, but it was a good performance she put on last night. Something I want to point out in the next fight, okay? Andrea Lee's boyfriend and cornerman, Tony Kelly, a very long time ago. Well, actually, you know what? Fuck it, dude. I'll wait until we get to the next fight. Andre Petrosky versus Gerald Meerschaert. I honestly kind of thought Gerald Meerschaert won. When they showed the striking stats, and even now as I'm looking at them, I did not see Andre Petrosky land that many shots in the first round. I saw him missing, winging on a ton of them. Gerald Meerschaert getting that left hand up to block a bunch of those right hands. I didn't really see him land cleanly almost a single time in that round, in the opening round. Now, maybe I need to go back and rewatch it, but I thought that Gerald Meerschaert was actually doing a pretty good job at seeing all those shots with his head movement. He was very defensively responsible with his blocks, and I thought he was countering and landing the better, more clean shots. He clearly won round 3. I did think Gerald Meerschaert should have gotten the nod. Andre Petrosky. Dude's born and raised in fucking Pennsylvania. Okay, fights out of Pennsylvania, and he's got a hammer and sickle tattoo right here on his goddamn rib cage. Fuck out of here, bro. You're American. I don't care how Russian your name sounds, okay? You were born, raised, and fight out of the United States of America, and Tony Kelly, Andrea Lee's boyfriend and head cornerman, once upon a time got completely raked over the coals for some tattoos that he may have acquired while he was in prison because he fucking had to, because of the color of his skin. And if you don't, you can get the shit beaten out of you, okay? But Andre Petrosky can walk around with a hammer and sickle tattoo as if that iconography, or whatever the fuck word it is not just as bad, and nobody bats a goddamn eye at it. Also, the cheetah hair print, fuck off, dude. Get out of here. Don't like him. Moving up the card to Brad Katona versus Cody Gibson. What a goddamn good fight. Incredible fight. I still don't like Brad Katona, but it is what it is. That was a very close fight, honestly. Like, the strikes were pretty crazy. Dude, that fight was wild. It was actually very hard to keep track and score. Brad Katona pulled ahead a lot that third round, landing 75 total strikes. I mean, what a pace to put on late in the fight. But Cody Gibson did outstrike him in the first 2 rounds, and by a pretty significant margin. The only problem is that Brad Katona clearly wobbled him on a couple of occasions. But I think in round 2, at the beginning of round 2, Cody Gibson kind of wobbled Brad Katona. So by the time Katona wobbled Cody Gibson, I wonder if the judges had kind of forgot what Cody Gibson did early on in that round. It was a very close fight. I think Brad Katona easily could be the winner. Like, I'm not saying that this was a bad decision, but something I want to point out, not only in this fight, but in the Gerald Meerschaert, the fight that we just talked about, there was a 30-27 scorecard on each of these fights, and there was more up the card that I'm going to get to, which are absolutely fucking ridiculous. There's no way Brad Katona won all 3 rounds. There's no way Andre Petrosky won all 3 rounds, unless I'm crazy and there wasn't a 30-27 for that fight, but I know there was a bunch up the card. Incredible fight by Brad Katona. It is unfortunate that one of these guys in Cody Gibson does not get to fight in the UFC, because that was a fucking spectacular fight. Amazing. They did get fight of the night bonus, so good for both of them getting an extra 50K, because I'm sure they're not making a whole lot just for the fight. But what a fucking fight that was. Holy. Moving up the card to Kurt Holobaugh versus Austin Hubbard. Man, Kurt Holobaugh, first of all, has 2 completely different ears, which is something that I haven't really seen before, right? Like, so sometimes you'll see wrestlers on the side that they like to shoot and pressure on. They'll have one really bad cauliflower ear and one not so bad, but at least the ears will be the same shape and size. Kurt Holobaugh has one gigantic fucking Dumbo ear on the right side, I think. Yeah, on his right side. And then his left side is like this curled up piece of fucking cauliflower. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen, but incredible job by him. Very good performance. Locking up that submission. The transition from first of all, Austin Hubbard cheated to even get to the point where he was attempting an escape, right? He interlocked his toes in the cage as if they were his fingers. He grabbed a hold of them, pushed off when he was getting stuck in that armbar, rolled out of the armbar right into a perfectly locked up triangle. Kurt Holobaugh had that shit tight as can be. Foot tucked in underneath the crevice in the kneecap. Incredible shit. Very good performance by him, and it's going to be exciting seeing him move forward. Also, it's crazy though that dude's got gray hair. Do you know what I mean? And he's just now getting back in the UFC, but still a very good win. And Austin Hubbard's no slouch. You know what I mean? They spoke about it on the commentary. Dude has championship experience in a legit organization outside the UFC. He's no bum. So that was an incredible performance by Kurt Holobaugh. Moving up the card too. Gregory Rodrigues versus Dennis TIULIULIN. I made a wild underdog pick here because Gregory Rodrigues was a almost minus 400, and he usually, to be fair to me, has horrible fight IQ and will just stand and trade with people that he probably shouldn't be, and then the people that he should be standing and trade with, he'll get fucking knocked out by. So I didn't think that he was going to actually use not just his grappling, but his brain enough to know that he's going to take this guy down and smash him. Now, that first shot that essentially put TIULIULIN out, that led to the couple more follow-up shots, there were only 6 total strikes thrown by him in this fight, was definitely a little iffy, a little towards the back of the head. Now, the back of the head is a lot smaller than I think a lot of people realize. It's a mohawk, essentially, that goes down the back. So if you're on the sides here, you're basically still good. It was a close one, but fucking not that it mattered, dude. He was getting there. He was well on his way. So, great performance by Gregory Rodrigues. Showed an improvement, not in any skill set, because he already had the skills, but he showed an improvement in his decision making within a fight enough to know that I'm probably not going to be able to stand with this dude, even though I hit hard as fuck. I'm going to take him down, and I'm going to do what I want to him on the ground. Great performance by Gregory Rodrigues. Showed why he was such a big favorite, you know what I mean? So, good job by him. Moving up the card, too, Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. Okay, this fight drove me crazy for one reason. Brad Tavares essentially won this fight with leg kicks only when Chris Weidman was in the orthodox stance. And I know that he was probably hesitant to put the right leg forward because that was the one that snapped in half and the bone came out of his fucking calf. But when he was in southpaw, he was checking all those kicks. When he was in southpaw and he would throw, he would land on Brad Tavares. But he kept going back to put the left leg forward when his left leg was completely destroyed. And every time Brad Tavares touched it, whether he got it up or not, it affected him severely. I didn't understand why. You were having success in southpaw. Stay there. Now, obviously, as I said, he's a little hesitant to put that leg forward. And something that I noticed that I didn't notice throughout fight week was that his right leg seems to be a little atrophied still. You know what I mean? I don't know if it'll permanently be like that, but it looks smaller, has less muscle definition than his front leg. And that might be one of the reasons he was a little concerned about it. And, you know, that's normal when you have a break because you can't move it or exercise it. You take the cast off and you're like, holy shit, what happened to my muscles? Chris Weidman's leg seemed to, the one that had broke seemed to be a little bit smaller still than the left leg. So maybe he wasn't even fully healed and prepared to be coming in here, but he wanted to do so. It was a good performance by Brad Tavares. I felt like he probably could have gone for the finish, but Chris Weidman, as I said, man, was having success in moments when he would be in southpaw. He was checking kicks and throwing back. Like the second round, they were only 8 strikes apart, and the third round was total blowout by Brad Tavares. But either way, dude, great performance by Brad Tavares. Chris Weidman should probably hang up the gloves. I thought he might have had one more left in him. Thought he would come in here, shoot some takedowns, and be relentless about it, not just, DC mentioned it. The dude kept shooting for doubles. And against the fence also. Brad Tavares has very good takedown defense. A double leg's not going to get him. Like he's been around long enough for that, especially not up against the fence when he has something he can lean on. So, Weidman should probably retire. Good performance by Brad Tavares. Definitely kicked the shit out of his legs, which was hard to watch. I was so concerned that whole fight. I was like, I really don't want to fucking see that again. But it is what it is. Moving up the card to Marlon Chito Vera versus Pedro Munhoz. Okay, this was a very close fight. In that first round, I thought Pedro Munhoz landed way more strikes than what the strike counters were giving him credit for. And now that the numbers, are more official and are on the UFC website, it's still the same. So maybe I just need to rewatch it. But I felt like he was doubling up on leg kicks and, landing short shots on the inside. Marlon Chito Vera did do a good job at waiting and, not waiting as much as he usually would. He was still patient and wouldn't just throw caution to the wind. He was landing shots when the opportunities were there, but he was a lot more active than he typically is, which is very good to see. That's why I picked against him, because we've seen it in multiple fights now where he's just not active enough and he's just is somehow able to find the finish. But Frankie Edgar taking a ton of damage, doesn't have the best chin, you know what I mean? Dominic Cruz taking a ton of damage also, came back, left due to injuries and shit like that. Older, Rob Font, same sort of shit. Like he just kept. I didn't think that he was going to be able to hurt Pedro Munhoz enough that he was able to get rounds, because he doesn't land a whole lot, but he damaged Pedro. Dude, honestly, I'll get to it when we talk about Sean O'Malley, but Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera is a very, very, very interesting fight. Chito ended up pulling ahead in significant strikes in that third round too. He outstruck Pedro in the first round. I'm really going to have to go back and rewatch this fight because I just didn't see it at the time. He outstruck him in every round, apparently. I thought in round 2, Pedro it's crazy to me, man. Chito must have been landing real stinky shit. Just little counters and tight. He is so hard to damage. The dude's literally got fucking alligator skin. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he had his arm broken in a fight and dude took the arm home with him. Cheeto's just gonna grow a new one. Do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever seen that with fucking alligators? It's wild. The guy is undamageable. Even with all the leg kicks Pedro Munoz was throwing, non-stop the entire fight. Not even a little wobble in Marlon Chito Vera's legs. And Pedro Munoz had a good game plan and he was sticking to it the entire time. Every single time Marlon Chito Vera would switch stances, Pedro Munoz would switch stances with him, pardon me, so that outside calf kick was there. Like, it was a smart move. But Cheeto's just a fucking, like, I don't understand, man. He cannot be damaged. It's amazing. And when he finds a shot on you, it's gonna hurt and it's gonna do damage. He busted up Pedro's nose, busted him up bad, and good performance by Cheeto. It's fucking crazy that a guy like Pedro Munoz can... Dude, Marlon Chito Vera, who has some of the best cardio in the bantamweight division, he's never been finished, neither by submission or KO. Dude could push a real fucking pace if he wanted to, and he just doesn't. He just sits there and waits. Could you imagine if he fought like a Nate Diaz type shit? Like, dude could do this all day. And he hits so hard that he would only need to... He wouldn't even really need to use his gas tank. But instead, he'd rather be patient, wait, and, you know, take the opportunities when they're there, not get reckless. He's very good defensively. You know, not just the fact that his skin is alligator skin, but he also rolls with shots very well, deflects shots very well, very slyly also. Like, they're not big actions. You don't see him, like, doing shit like this, but he just kind of moves with shit, gets a fist there. Good performance by Marlon Chito Vera, and, you know, this was the best potential outcome for the UFC, because had Pedro Munoz won this fight with guys like Sandhagen and Merab out with injuries, that would have been real hard to try and sell a fucking title fight with Pedro Munoz and Sean O'Malley. Do you know what I mean? Despite the fact that their fight ended in a no contest. So this was the best possible outcome for the UFC, without a doubt. Moving up the card, too. Damone Blackshear, I need to slow down a little bit, versus Mario Bautista. Dude, this one I thought was a robbery. I thought Damone Blackshear won that fight. And I picked Mario Bautista to win. Now I'll take it, because this was one of the worst night of picks I have ever had. Okay? Only a handful of times, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 times this entire year have I ever been negative, meaning I got less right than I did wrong. This tonight was one of them, okay? Damone Blackshear, I thought, won that fight. And I do not have any I have no fucking clue how a judge gave Mario Bautista a 30-27 scorecard. Like, this shit don't make sense. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Mario Bautista, in my opinion, did not win that fight. In my opinion, he won the 3rd round. And he won it pretty handedly. He outstruck him by a lot. Got 2 takedowns. Had 1 sub attempt. Outstruck him significantly and on totals. The totals by quite a bit more than the significant, but, like, still. He won 3rd round easy. Damone Blackshear, I thought, kind of won the first 2 rounds. And, I mean, the numbers kind of agree with me. But unfortunate, man, because that would have been incredible that the dude turned around on a week's notice after getting a goddamn twister, gets another win in 7 days. Damone Blackshear is fucking huge. You know what I mean? He'll be an issue for a lot of guys to deal with. He is so big in there. But honestly, Mario Bautista didn't look all that great. Like, a lot of people were super hype on him. And now, watching him fight Blackshear, you know, when they announced the Cody Garbrandt fight, I thought that was a horrible, horrible matchup for Cody Garbrandt. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe he would have got submitted, but Cody Garbrandt's a decent wrestler. Like, I don't know. Mario Bautista is not as good as I thought he was, or he just had a lot of trouble switching gears, you know, preparing primarily for a boxer that throws some takedowns and some calf kicks, and then you go to Damone Blackshear, who's an incredible grappler, very strong, you know, wants to take you down and do shit to you on the ground. So maybe that was it, but I kind of thought he lost that one. You know what I mean? I thought he lost the first 2 rounds, and he got a 30-27 somehow. I mean, Cheeto got a 30-27 also. I thought he lost the 2nd round, clearly. But 30-27s were just being handed out across the fucking board tonight, apparently. So moving on up the card, too. Good performance by both guys, I guess, Damone Blackshear and Mario Bautista. I thought the wrong guy won, but it is what it is. Neil Magny versus Ian Machado Gary. Holy shit, dude. That was nuts. Ian Garry beat the living fuck out of Neil Magny. That was hard to watch, honestly. Neil Magny, ironically enough, he said he was gonna beat Ian Garry the same way that he beats his toddler-aged son. Yet he was the one out there flailing around like a fucking toddler, throwing a temper tantrum. He literally looked like an inflatable arm flailing tube man. Every single time Ian Garry touched him, he would flail around like a fucking weirdo, dude, like a rag doll, like Raggedy Ann and Andy. Every single time the calf kick happened, the dude's hitting the mat. It was real strange. It is crazy that Ian Garry wasn't able to finish him, and I'm not trying to shit on Ian Garry's performance. It was a very good performance. Neil Magny's a vet, you know what I mean? He knows how to stay in there, so I'm not going to hold that against him all that much, but I am very, very, very interested now in seeing Ian Garry fight the guys at the top of this division, right? The Wonder Boy call out was a very good one because Wonder Boy is an incredible striker still at 40 years of age. About as old as Ian Garry's wife, so he'll be used to that. Shavkat Rakhmonov obviously finished Neil Magny, so it would be very interesting to see Shavkat versus Ian Garry. I mean, Ian Garry is incredible at range. He's very, very, very good. That was a great performance. I don't know what else to say, man. I mean, that was a domination. Now, 3-10-8s is a little wild. The first round was a little hard to score for a 10-8, but I guess the optics of Neil Magny constantly flailing around like the inflatable arm flailing tube man, if he was a fucking toddler, probably not the greatest look. Maybe made it seem a little more damaging and dominating than it would have otherwise, but it was crazy, dude. That was insane. Ian Garry just, I mean, Jesus, Neil Magny had literally nothing for him. It says he landed 51 total strikes, and I don't recall. It says he landed 22 in the first round. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, it didn't matter. His shots have nothing on him. Not a whole lot of pop, right? He likes to clinch and beat you up in there and make shit dirty. Dogfight. Ian Garry didn't let him do that. He stayed at range, picked him apart. Horrible leg kicks, non-stop. And, Ian Garry, dude, this is justice shit. Shut up, dude. Like, enough of that. You know what I mean? I don't even think Neil Magny meant that he literally beats his fucking kids. It's, but he's still going on about it. And, you just beat the shit out of the guy for 15 minutes straight. He took this fight on a week's notice. You would not have been able to even perform had he not stepped up and took it on a week's notice. And instead of fucking giving him respect at the end of the fight, you smack his head and flip him off and all this shit. Like, it's just lame, dude. It's just lame. Especially because he thinks he's doing it because he thinks Neil Magny actually beats the shit out of his 3-year-old son. Do you know what I mean? It's just a little cringe, but a great performance nonetheless. So moving on up the card, great job, Ian Garry. Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos, complete and total domination. I said Zhang Weili would be able to do whatever the fuck she wanted to Amanda Lemos. That was essentially the case. Now, she did not get the finish, but god damn, total strikes, 296 to 29 in favor of Zhang Weili. That is incredible, dude. Off the top of my head, 30. Dude, 267 strike differential. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? 6 of 7 on takedowns. The transition in that first round when Amanda Lemos had that Darce, that was tight. And when she had the one leg, it was obviously a lot more dangerous. When Zhang Weili got out of it, she still had it. Obviously, you get way more leverage with the legs. You're able to create a lot more, squeeze with them. But it was an iffy situation. And then from Zhang Weili to transition from that to a back take, that was fucking wild. That was a beautiful transition. Dude, just total domination. I mean, I don't even know what else really to say about it. She beat the fuck out of Amanda Lemos. She's the one that dropped Amanda Lemos in the 5th round, no less. And, a judge gave Amanda Lemos a round there, and I would imagine it was round 4 because that was the closest round. However, it wasn't that fucking close. First round total strikes, 74 to 2. Okay, that's a 10-8. Second round, 49 to 5, could arguably be a 10-8. Round 3, 31 to 8. Round 4, 28 to 13. So it was the closest one. The difference was that Amanda Lemos had 2 submission attempts. Now, nothing really on them. They weren't overly overly concerning, I don't think, for Zhang Weili. I think one of them was a guillotine, and Zhang just got out of it a few seconds later. Like, it wasn't... I mean, it was a fight-ending sequence, technically, so maybe that's what the judges were going off of, but, I don't know, man. I mean, that was a fucking... essentially a clean sweep from Zhang Weili, and took almost no goddamn damage. What a performance. You know what I mean? Amanda Lemos, you can't really just rely on, like, landing a power shot, especially when you're not a world-class striker like a Sean O'Malley, clearly. Do you know what I mean? She lands one perfect right hand down the middle, straight right hand, and then decides to start winging overhands, you know? So, great performance by Zhang Weili. She is so much better than every fucking girl in this division, and I know Rose Namajunas has 2 wins over her. I think Zhang Weili would dominate her at this stage in her career, and I kind of think that Zhang Weili probably should have won that second fight. I would have to rewatch it, but... Jesus, I don't know what girl at strawweight's gonna beat her. Like, her versus Tatiana Suarez, I guess, could be interesting. But Tatiana Suarez doesn't, I don't know, we'll see. Either way, great fucking performance by Zhang Weili. We're moving up the card now, main event, fucking the moment we've all been waiting for. Holy shit, dude, he did it. Sean O'Malley did it. Whether you fucking like or hate Sean O'Malley, you have to admit, dude can fight. There's like no more questions, okay? Because Aljamain Sterling was the best grappler in the division, was unable to take him down. Petr Yan's more effective at getting takedowns, but Sean O'Malley didn't really let him get a whole lot off when they were on the ground either. And man, I said this in the Dana White privilege video, okay? It only takes you so far. What you get the opportunity, but you have to make good on it. Otherwise, none of this conversation matters. And Sean O'Malley made good on it. Whether or not you think he was deserving, whether or not you like him. Dude fucking is a very good striker. And as much as I thought Aljo was going to win, first of all, and I think most people did. Not if you look at the UFC polls, but if you look at the odds and, you know, whatever, people making picks online, shit like that. I don't even like Sean O'Malley all that much, but that was incredible. And not just that, dude. Now we get, like, not to shit on Aljo's title reign. It was a little shitty, okay? We 100% get exciting title fights now. As long as he's got the belt or is involved in the title picture, we're going to have very exciting title fights. The first round, Aljamain outstruck him. The entire round, essentially just landing little shots, leg kicks, body kicks, shit like this. Not a whole lot on them, but definitely outlanded Sean O'Malley on significant strikes and total strikes. Attempted a takedown once, I think at the end of the round. Not a whole lot on it, kind of let it go. Sean O'Malley looked nervous and out of breath and, like, worried in between rounds 1 and rounds 2. Tim Welch is an incredible fucking coach. And at the very least, he's an incredible coach for Sean O'Malley. He said the perfect shit. He essentially manifested it, if we're going to pull in Israel Adesanya. He said, he's the one that's got to close the distance on you. He's got to get close to you. You're going to be able to counter his entry. And what the fuck happened, dude? Aljamain Sterling came in for an entry, threw up, I think, a right hand, and then looked as though he was going to shoot, grab a single leg maybe, or a body lock. Sean O'Malley perfectly placed fucking laser beam of a right hand right on Aljamain Sterling's chin, dropped him. His ground and pound is super underrated because he's so fucking long that he can stand there and land big shots and not be overly concerned about, like, actually having to go to the ground with you. He can stay standing and kind of stack you and land huge damaging shots from that position. Holy shit, man. I mean, I said it in my picks video, you know, Toad, the fucking dude in my chat, said, sometimes the universe does weird shit, and that's not to take away from the fucking laser beam that Sean O'Malley landed on Aljamain Sterling's chin. But what I mean is that we've seen bigger upsets, including Aljamain Sterling's coach, Matt Serra, over GSP. And it's not... it wouldn't be otherworldly that Sean O'Malley lands a shot on Aljamain Sterling, and he did just that. I wish I fucking picked him. You have any idea how badly I was internally battling with myself to not, like... Fuck, man. Because you always for me anyways, I'm a little biased. I always want to see strikers win because I love watching striking matches. But then I'm always hesitant to pick for them because, you know, once they get wrapped up on the ground, it's like they're fucking useless. His takedown defense looked incredible. I mean, Aljamain Sterling took down Henry Cejudo. Do you know what I mean? Multiple times in their fight. He had Petr Yan's back for probably like a total of 7 minutes in their fight, and he could not get O'Malley down. Now, he only tried, maybe, he's credited with, what, 2 takedown attempts? 2 takedown attempts. 0 for 2. I mean, holy shit, dude. Incredible. And dude, this was the best possible outcome for the UFC. It's crazy to me. I've never, ever in my life seen the UFC post a finish, let alone a pay-per-view main event KO on their Instagram page, but they've posted it on their Instagram page. They've allowed Sean O'Malley to it's being posted everywhere, the full finish, which that never happens because that shit is like they want you to buy the pay-per-view to watch it. Bro, best possible outcome. Now, Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Chito Vera is going to be a very interesting fight, in my opinion, whether or not you like either fucking guy. Marlon Chito Vera is undamageable. So we're going to see if Sean O'Malley can damage him. And Chito has 5 fucking rounds to land a big shot on Sean O'Malley's chin. Now, Sean O'Malley has proven to us that he actually has a pretty good chin. He's taken some big shots. Petr Yan kind of dropped him-ish, like definitely rocked him. Chito just seems to hit different. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that fight plays out because Sean O'Malley doesn't just need to be a counter striker, but he was for this one. He allowed Aljo to pressure him. I said this in the picks video. It would be interesting to see who was the one doing the pressuring because we've seen both guys fight in both roles. Aljamain Sterling in the two Petr Yan fights. The first one, he pressured like mad, and the second one, he allowed Petr Yan to pressure him. There were moments where Sean O'Malley was pressuring and had Aljo backed up against the cage, back to the cage, which is ideal because, you know, you can corral him and he gets less movement to try and get away from your big strikes. Sean O'Malley didn't need that, though. We've seen Sean O'Malley, though, be on the back, waiting, doing what he did last night, and we've seen him against guys like a Chris Montinho or whatever the fuck go out there all out offense and be like as if he's hitting a heavy bag. It's going to be very interesting to see who takes what role in his fight versus Marlon Chito Vera because Chito kind of just stands there and waits. Now he'll pressure you a little bit, but he doesn't really. So Sean O'Malley's almost going to have to go forward if he wants to land shit because otherwise it's just going to be a stalemate, both guys waiting for a big counter. It's going to be interesting, man. Like at the beginning of their first fight, and obviously both guys have improved and grown a ton since then. But Chito didn't seem phased by like the shots that because and now we know he doesn't get phased by these shots. Like I feel like Sean O'Malley would have to land a perfectly flush head kick on Marlon Chito Vera to get him out of there because otherwise how the fuck are you going to do that? And then on the other hand, Marlon Vera has 25 minutes to find a big shot on Sean O'Malley's chin. And it's going to be interesting. Dude, again, I said in the preview, like I don't really like Sean O'Malley all that much. This does make bantamweight objectively more exciting. And had Aljamain won and then ditched and fucking went off to featherweight, bantamweight would have been screwed for us. Like who would have fought for the title? You would have had to have waited for Corey Sandhagen and Merab because Sean O'Malley would have just had a loss and Chito would still be ranked like, in the maybe 5. I don't know, dude. Like, it would be real hard to find 2 guys that are actually deserving to fight for a vacant title. And whether or not you think that Marlon Chito Vera is deserving of a title shot don't matter because we've actually got a legitimate champion who won the belt off of the champion as opposed to 2 guys fighting for a vacant title. So it's fucking interesting, man. I can't wait for that fight, which is crazy because it's not like I've been overly excited for Aljamain Sterling title defenses, and I'm not trying to shit on him. And, you know, it was real unfortunate to hear the crowd booing him like crazy. Right after he'd been TKO'd, the stoppage was a little, you know, maybe they could have let it go a little bit longer. He was just moving to his famous crab position where he was going to do this shit. But, like, it was fine. a couple more shots, you know what I mean? It was not the worst stoppage I've ever seen. I'm not gonna fucking complain about it. But then Aljo kind of won them over with his very classy speech. All respect to Sean O'Malley. He said he underestimated him, which is very unfortunate. Like, why would you underestimate any opponent, first of all? But you know, it is what it is, dude. Fucking crazy. Sean O'Malley is the world champion, and he's fought 2 guys ranked in the top 5. Like, it's wild, man. But he beat like the 2. I mean, fuck. When he beat Petr Yan was on fire. And, you know, when he beat Aljamain Sterling had defended his belt more times than any other bantamweight champion. And he goes out there and puts him away in the 2nd round without getting taken down at all. So, who fucking cares, dude? Credit to him. That was amazing. Amazing. And we get a ton of exciting title fights at bantamweight now, which it has been a while since we've had that, okay? So, whether or not he's a pay-per-view star, I'm sure as shit excited to watch him fight Chito, even though Marlon Chito Vera probably hasn't earned a title shot. It is what it is. That's going to be a very interesting fight. Credit to Sean O'Malley, man. No more fucking doubting the dude. He's legit, clearly. Not just in the striking, but in the takedown aspect as well. Takedown defense, pardon me. He's good, man. We just hadn't really got to see it. Which, I mean, he's been saying. But to be fair to everybody else, like, we don't know unless we see it. So, it is what it is. Great performance. Good job, Sean O'Malley. New era at bantamweight, all striking. It's going to be very, very, very fucking interesting. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.